Hello everyone, it's DC here, and today I am driving to a place to have dinner. Not a very exciting introduction to a video, I know. However, I just wanted to make a video basically while I'm driving, while I've got a few minutes spare to keep the channel alive, to talk about, living in Kunming, because that's where I am. That's where I've been living now for around, how long has it been? 9 months? And just about my experiences living in this city for, a period of time. A lot of people ask me in the comments, do you need to speak Chinese to travel to China? How do you get by with paying for things? All of these types of questions. So I'm going to try and answer a few of those in this video. The first question, do you need to be able to speak Chinese to travel to China? And the answer is kind of. It depends where you go. So an example of the language in China, which is honestly very diverse, is something that I've been trying to overcome myself, because my Mandarin speaking skills are, I would say, average, maybe even below average. Just got to wait for these people to cut me off. All good. So with my limited amount of Chinese, I am able to get around. A few things that I would want to learn before traveling to China. If you're traveling on your own, you don't have someone to maybe show you around who can speak Chinese. Some words that are really useful to learn, or sentences even, are things like, how much does this cost? What the number, 1 through to 10 is a pretty good place to guess on what the other numbers are then for. Honestly, if you want like the real China experience, the experience of talking with foreigners, getting to know people, really, enjoying yourself in somewhere other than where you're living, I would highly recommend learning Mandarin to be able to have those conversations. A lot of the time, the conversations go like this. They start with, someone will say Lawai or Waigaran, which means a foreigner, like someone who's not from here. Take it badly, because it's not intended to be an insult or a slur, like, oh, a foreigner. More like, oh, interesting, there's a foreigner here. That's usually where it starts. Then they'll usually ask, where are you from? Asking where you're from usually comes across as Nishanalirenma, which means literally, what person, country are you? For me, being Australian, I would say Aldaliajan. 我是 Aldaliajan. I am Australian. Quite simply, and they'll go, oh, cool. Or they'll say, something, oh, ha. And then they'll make a comment about you, or how different you are to the other people around. Being a foreigner and being white is something that is different to the people here. There's not a huge amount of foreigners across the cities of China. So don't take it as something bad, like they're calling you a foreigner to make it like a racial thing. They're more just saying like, oh wow, that's interesting, there's a foreigner here. How interesting. I wonder where they're from. Basically like this. The reason I mention that this is not like a racial slur is because I've talked to some people who quickly traveled to China, maybe like 2 weeks, something like that. Had a quick trip, and they experienced the Lawai thing, you're a foreigner, and they potentially took it the wrong way, but it's usually, if ever, referred to it in that manner. Another extremely useful Chinese phrase to use is 我饱了, which means I'm full. This is probably the most used term or phrase, or whatever you want to call it, that I've ever used in China while being here for the last 9 months. People here love to feed you. They love for you to experience the culture, and the food is often, especially when you go to different places, is a huge part of the culture. So when someone, they'll keep trying to give you food to introduce you to something new, and saying 我饱了 is quite useful, even though it doesn't always work. I'll be completely honest. I'll say, 我饱了, 我太饱了, 饱死了. Means like, I'm full, I'm so full, I'm full to death, I'm so full, please stop feeding me. They'll probably keep feeding you anyway, so just keep that in mind. It's not like a thing that, they want to fatten you up or something like that, or maybe they do. It's more about, introducing you to the culture and the things that they're proud for. So like, for example, I went to Texas a few years ago, and I had a guy there who really wanted me to try Texas barbecue. And I said, yeah, sure, man, let's do it. It's a similar thing. It's like an introduction to that region's speciality. And in China, there are so many specialities. So every region has its own special dishes or flavor profile or something like this. So it is something that does come up. Like, people do really try to get you to eat all the different stuff. Honestly, most of the food is absolutely fantastic. There's a few things that I don't personally eat, but it's you know, everyone likes different stuff, right? I'll try everything twice at least, just to make sure I wasn't, you know, I had a bad taste in my mouth before trying that thing if I didn't like it. But I'm pretty good. I like pretty much everything. So for me, it's easy. I'll eat anything, basically. Yeah, if you don't want to eat something, or if you don't want something in general, another good term to use is 我不要, which means I don't want. Quite literally, I don't want. It can be a little bit abrasive, it can be a bit abrupt, but saying that it's usually understood, especially as a foreigner. If someone tries to give you some rice wine, for example. I don't personally like the flavor of rice wine, although I have drunk it way too many times recently, especially with Chinese New Year. Just have someone, they try to give you a cup of baijiu or something, you can say 我不喝, which means I don't drink, or 我不要, which means I don't want. And they'll probably get it. They'll be like, okay, he doesn't want to drink the rice wine. Another custom that I just thought of on the alcohol and thing is cigarettes. A lot of people do offer you a cigarette as a goodwill, and saying I don't smoke is probably not going to come across too well, although most people understand I don't smoke. Although if you do smoke, take the cigarette. However, if you don't smoke and you don't want to smoke, you can say 我不抽, which means I don't smoke. No smoking. It's quite blatantly obvious, that one. So yeah, if you don't want to smoke, 我不抽, 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 谢谢, 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 我不抽. Other useful phrases, 谢谢, obviously, thank you. It's common courtesy. Come on, guys. You can speak a little bit. Even my parents, when my parents came here, I taught them a few basic words, and 谢谢 is probably the main one that they used, apart from 你好, which is obviously hello. Some other cultural differences which might be different to where you're from. I'm not too sure about everywhere in the world, but I know if I was to compare to Australia, if I'm in a restaurant and I want service from someone in the restaurant, I want one of the waiters to come over and help me. Hello, can I have some service, please? Something like that. In China, you can be really upfront if you really want. There's some common ones like menu, which means, beautiful girl, if you're calling a female waitress, or if you're calling a male waiter, you could say 帅哥, which means handsome guy. You can use those terms, and that they'll get it. They'll understand. They'll come over. It's not weird. It's not flirty, or it's not too much. That's pretty normal. You could also go with one that I hear mostly in the north of China, which is 服务员, which means quite literally service or waiter. Like, come over here. Some people you will find are very, very, what's the right word here? Maybe like abrupt, or it sounds a bit aggressive. That is a thing in some places. Some places are quite aggressive when they want to get service. And that's perfectly normal. Don't think twice like, oh man, what a rude asshole. Because maybe that's just how it is. So just leave the culture to the culture, because that's how it is. Don't try to impose your own standards of where you're living on another country, because they're totally different systems. So just worth keeping in. Now, to answer another question, which is how do I spend money in China? How do I buy things? The easiest answer to this is to set up an Alipay account. Someone's getting beeped at for not turning the corner. Talk about beeping in it. So Alipay is, it works for most Visa and MasterCard, and I think American Express cards if you want to pay for things in China. Most things are paid for on a QR code. QR codes are used for literally everything. So start getting used to QR codes, because that's mostly how you pay for things. A lot of the time they'll ask for two different payment methods. One is WeChat or Weixin. So you can say, or Alipay, which is Jifobao, which means Alipay, I think, or something close to that. Alipay has a slightly higher conversion fee when you're paying for things, but it's not a huge amount. So if you're buying, for example, you want to go to a luxury brand shop for whatever reason, you want to buy a luxury brand in China, all the power to you. However, the currency conversion fee will sting you because it will be a lot. If you're buying like everyday goods like food, groceries, petrol, any of that sort of stuff, Alipay, perfectly fine. WeChat Pay, perfectly fine. You can also use cash in most places. However, I have found it difficult personally to pay for things in cash because I need to calculate how much money it costs and do the math of the numbers, which can be a bit tricky sometimes. And also, a lot of places I find maybe don't actually accept cash, which is strange, but I mean, that's just how it kind of is. A lot of places don't take cash as a payment option for whatever reason. I don't know why. Doesn't really matter. I've got Alipay and I've got WeChat Pay as well. Set up WeChat Pay, it is a little bit trickier because you need a Chinese phone number to set up a WeChat account to be able to process payments, and to be able to process payments you need a Chinese ID. So if you don't have a permanent residency here, it's very tricky to set up payments through WeChat. However, Alipay works pretty much everywhere that WeChat Pay works. Most places will have both of those payment as options for you to pay with. Now, talking about beeping, the guy beeping just before, I'm almost completely deaf to beeping because people beep so often. Now, people beep for different reasons. And there's the usual one, which is that someone's done something stupid, they're gonna get beeped at. People will beep at you. If you're too slow, they'll beep. If you turn a corner, very abruptly cut someone off without indicating, you'll get beeped. But people also beep when they are about to turn a corner to notify people, maybe if there's some bicycles or the electronic bikes or motorbikes or people walking or whatever, they'll beep. They'll just beep at you and say like, hey, like beep beep, I'm coming through, so watch out. There's a car coming. It's very normal. You get used to it pretty quickly because beeping happens everywhere. And my advice to people who want to stay in a hotel is stay as high up as you can and don't stay at a hotel on a corner, because if people are going around that corner, it's a busy corner, you're going to hear beeping at all hours. So just be prepared for that, the beeping situation. Just to answer the other question of what's life like living in Kunming, what's it all about? Like, what do you do here and how do you do it? It's why are you in China? I've talked about this before in other videos, why I'm in China. I'm here for a few reasons. One is that my wife wanted to come back to visit family and friends. We plan on having a child here at some point as well. And I wanted to focus on building my business in a country that wasn't expensive. So basically Australia, it's really hard to focus solely on building a business while, paying for living expenses. Australia is very expensive with that. But in China, I can live a whole week if I really wanted on around 100 Australian dollars, which is pretty cool. That's like really cheap. I could spend $100 in an hour or less. Or like a lunch for 4 people in Australia, probably going to cost me $100. Whereas in China, a lunch for 4 people, it's probably going to cost me somewhere around, I don't know, $20 or $30, depending on where you go. Maybe $50 if I go somewhere a bit more fancy. But another question I had actually was about driving in China in general, just being able to drive. As a foreigner, you are able to get a driver's license here. Not sure if the international driver's license things work in China. I'm honestly not sure, so I can't answer that question. However, if you want to get a driver's license, each city has its own different version of a test, and the test is in English. However, the test is really hard. I'll be completely honest, I did it 2 times. I got it on the 2nd time, which I've been told is quite astonishing. I didn't know that, but yeah, that's pretty sick. But yeah, it's possible to get a driver's license here if you're planning on staying for a little while or want to hire a car, drive around, whatever it is. So yeah, you can get a driver's license. Another thing about hotels, if you're planning on staying here for a short period of time, you want to come for a holiday, just get a holiday visa for China, which is probably the easiest one to get, and make sure you book the hotels that you want to go to in advance. The reason I say that is because while it is very easy to get hotels here if it's not in a holiday period for China, so Chinese New Year or the national holiday in October, it's super easy to get hotels. The one thing I would say though is that some hotels, they don't accept foreigners because they don't have the facility to process a passport. It's not about racism or something like that. It's just that they don't actually have the facility. They would love to have you as a guest, but not all hotels, especially the smaller ones, will accept a passport as identification because they can't scan it. They can't do anything with it. So unfortunately for them, they can't host some foreigners. So just keep that in mind. Book the hotels ahead of time. You'll be all good. Anyway, that's my crash course into coming to China and living in China, or having a holiday in China. Some people have asked me if they need to be able to speak Chinese to go to Hong Kong. Most people in Hong Kong can speak English. It's like a Hong Kongese version of English, so it's a bit interesting, but it is English. At the end of the day, everyone can sort of understand each other. You can order. It's all good. Keep in mind though that there is a different currency in Hong Kong as there is to mainland China. In Hong Kong, they use Hong Kong dollars. In mainland China, they use renminbi or RMB or the Chinese yuan. So yeah, there is different currencies. If you're going to Hong Kong first, and it's like a little quick introduction into China, and then you go to the mainland of China, you'll probably want to exchange the Hong Kong dollars for Chinese dollars or Chinese yuan so that you can, actually buy stuff if you have cash. So yeah, this video turned out to be way longer than I thought. Yeah, I'm happy to get the information out there and to help anyone who's interested in coming to China. I personally live in Kunming, and the reason I chose Kunming is mainly because of the weather. It's really nice here. There's also lots of like little cool villages and regional areas, which I really enjoy. I like that stuff. My wife doesn't like the regional towns so much, but I find if you really want to discover China, getting out of the big cities, which when you go to a few, you realize that they're all pretty similar as far as big cities are concerned. So yeah, getting out of the city is always fun because you're really going to experience some real China stuff, which is it's good fun. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe for any new content that I'm bringing out. I have a video that is coming out that I mentioned in my last video, which is fully edited by professionals, shot by professionals video about spending one day in Kunming and only being able to spend 100 yuan. So it's gonna be a good video. I'm just waiting for them to send me that, then I'll post it online. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, and I'll see you on the next video. Catch you later.